There has been this argument that Donald Trump is retreating, or America is retreating from the world stage. I spent 4 years in the Middle East. I covered a lot of foreign trips by the president. I've never seen a foreign trip with as much deliverables, if you will, for the United States than this one. How do you square that circle?
Well, I think the issue really is in Europe. And, you know, for 80 years since World War II, we have had a strong relationship with our European allies. Of course, we fought in World War II with Britain. We brought France in. We occupied Germany. Eventually, they became members of NATO. We knew that there was a certain degree of Soviet threat in Europe. The Cold War came down, but it turned out that actually, as a region, Europe is still our greatest investment partner, our greatest trading partner, 550 million people. And there's active war in Ukraine. So the question is, how do we handle that as Americans? Under the Biden administration, we gave the Ukrainians enough not to lose, but not enough to win militarily. We prolonged the war. There's been a million casualties.
I hear you there. And then enough to prolong the war and not enough to win was, I think, part of the problem with the Biden administration's foreign policy. But if you look at what Donald Trump is doing in the Middle East, I think just on the very simple idea, is America better off and seen as stronger around the world before he left or when he comes home? I can't figure out how this is not sort of an unquestioned win on many points.
Well, Leland, I don't want to be partisan with you, okay? And so I've not heard anybody suggest that Donald Trump is backing away from the Middle East. On the contrary, what he's doing is building the strongest relationship we've ever had with the Gulf states. And you see the evidence, and you've talked about it. But the world's a big place, and we still have the issue with China and Russia, Iran and North Korea. And so in the Middle East, that's a really important building point. But on Thursday, there's supposed to be a talk in Turkey between Zelenskyy and Putin. So the Europeans had said that they're not going to support that talk unless Putin agrees to a 30-day ceasefire. He didn't agree to the 30-day ceasefire. President Trump stood with the Europeans and said he agrees with the Europeans. Putin needs to say there's a 30-day ceasefire. And then he changed. He told the Europeans, no, we're not going to do that. He told Zelenskyy, you go there and meet with Putin. Okay. Now, we don't know if Putin's coming, but so there's some ambiguity here.
Let me just ask you,
can I just finish a second? Look, President Trump is very skillful in terms of weaving his patterns back and forth. And it may turn out that this is exactly the right way to handle Putin. But the issue of backing away has nothing to do with the Middle East or China. It's all about Europe.
Understood. And I think there's another side to this. You think about the Europeans, the Brits, the French, the Germans, the Dutch. For as much as the argument is the United States has backed away from them, they have backed away from us. They've given up so many of their liberal democratic ideals. The many parts of those countries now resemble the Middle East because of the amount of immigration that they have allowed there. Their policies have become illiberal. There's certainly what they've done and how they've kept up their militaries has not been one of partnership. It's been one of letting the U.S. Sort of lead the way and them coast in our wake. I'm thinking when you go to the Middle East first and you say to the Middle East, look, you want to invest in America and you want to have a strong military, we'll support you. Doesn't that kind of send a message to Europe? You guys better buckle up and you guys better start doing what you've said you believe in?
No, I don't think that sends a message to Europe. I think that what sends a message to Europe is American engagement. Now, President Trump is going to tell these European countries they need to spend 5% on defense. That's the message they need to hear. And they need to do it, and they need to do it now. But the United States also is at a historic low point in its defense budget. We're at just under 3%. During the Cold War, during Ronald Reagan's time, we were at 5 or 6%. That's how we won the Cold War. We're facing a determined adversary in Vladimir Putin. He wants not just Ukraine, he wants the Baltic states, he wants Poland, he wants NATO dissolved, he wants us out of Europe. This would be a big mistake for the American economy.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.